I never thought of myself as generous. I just had something extra, and someone in my family needed it. The apartment wasn't large, one bedroom, narrow kitchen, windows that looked onto a parking lot, but it was steady. The lease was mine, the rent was manageable, and after a few years it had quietly become the center of my routine. My younger brother called one evening sounding tired. His roommate had moved out suddenly. The landlord wanted a new lease signed immediately, or everyone had to leave. My brother had nowhere to go. I told him he could stay at my place for a while. No rent. Just until things settled. He sounded relieved in a way that made the decision feel obvious. I gave him a key the next day. At first it worked exactly how I imagined. He slept on the couch, kept odd hours, and mostly stayed out of my way. The arrangement felt temporary and easy, the way helping family is supposed to feel. Then small things began appearing. A second toothbrush on the bathroom sink, a pair of shoes by the door that weren't his, a coffee mug that showed up in the drying rack every morning. When I asked casually, he said his girlfriend stayed over sometimes. It didn't bother me. People visit each other. Apartments stretch a little when they have to. But the apartment began to feel arranged. The kitchen shelves shifted, my pans moved to a different cabinet. The living room blanket folded differently than I ever folded it. The girlfriend was polite whenever I saw her. Friendly even. But there was a strange confidence in the way she walked through the place, like someone who had already decided it fit her. My brother started saying, "Our place," without noticing. "Yeah, we'll be at our place tonight." I noticed. I didn't correct him. It felt too small to challenge. I told myself things would sort themselves out. A month later I left town for 4 days for work. Nothing dramatic. Just meetings in another city and a cheap hotel. When I came back, the key didn't work. At first I assumed I had the wrong one. I tried again, slower. The lock turned halfway and stopped. I stood there for a few seconds, confused in the quiet hallway. Then the door opened from the inside. My brother was standing there. Behind him, his girlfriend leaned against the kitchen counter holding a sheet of paper. The apartment looked the same, but the air felt rearranged. My brother rubbed the back of his neck. "Hey." "Yeah, so we had to change the locks." The sentence sat between us like something unfinished. The girlfriend stepped forward and handed me the paper. It was a list, printed neatly. At the top it said, "House rules." Below it were bullet points. Text before coming over. No late arrivals. Quiet hours after 10. Shared fridge policy. Bathroom schedule. Halfway down the page, a line caught my eye. "If you plan to visit the apartment, please follow these conditions. Visit." I looked up. She gave a calm, patient smile, the kind someone uses when explaining a process that should already make sense. My brother avoided my eyes. No one said the obvious sentence out loud, but the implication hung there. They believed the apartment now belonged to them. I could have argued. I could have shouted. Instead, I folded the paper once, handed it back, and said I'd come by later. Then I left. For the next few days I didn't call or text. My brother messaged me once about groceries, another time about splitting the internet bill. He spoke like nothing unusual had happened. I answered politely, briefly, but the way I thought about the situation had shifted. It stopped feeling like a family disagreement. It started feeling like paperwork. My lease was still active. My name was the only one on it. And the building had very clear rules. The property manager was a quiet woman who had worked there longer than I'd lived in the apartment. I explained what had happened. She didn't react with outrage. She simply pulled my lease from a folder and began reading. Unauthorized occupants, subletting restrictions, lock replacement policies. When she finished, she looked up and said, very calmly, "Well, that's not how this works." Her tone carried a kind of professional gravity that made the whole situation feel suddenly smaller and more concrete. We scheduled a visit 3 days later. My brother opened the door again. But this time I wasn't alone. The property manager stood beside me holding a clipboard. The girlfriend was in the kitchen again. For a moment, everyone seemed confused about who should speak first. The manager solved that problem. She stepped inside, glanced at the new lock hardware, and spoke in the measured voice of someone who had done this many times. The leaseholder never surrendered occupancy, she said. Her finger tapped the clipboard. Changing locks without authorization violates building policy, and additional residents require written approval. The girlfriend tried to explain their living arrangement. The manager listened patiently and then repeated the same phrase. According to the lease, every explanation met the same quiet wall of procedure. My brother's confidence faded quickly once the conversation stopped being emotional. Within 10 minutes, the outcome was clear. Unauthorized occupants would need to vacate. The locks would be restored. The apartment remained under the leaseholder's control. I said almost nothing. There wasn't much to add. They moved out 4 days later. There was no dramatic confrontation, just boxes, a few tense silences. My brother texted once afterward saying I had taken it too far. I didn't respond. Some arguments don't change shape no matter how long you talk about them. The apartment felt strange. The first night it was quiet again, not triumphant, just different. I walked through the kitchen, putting things back where they used to be. The coffee mugs, the pans, the blanket on the couch. Generosity hadn't been the mistake, but generosity without boundaries had created a story other people were happy to believe. Now the place felt simple again, clear. The new keys sit in the same bowl by the door where the old ones used to be, and if someone ever needs a place to stay again, I'll probably still help. Just with one extra sentence at the beginning. Not cold, just defined.